I always thought the most dramatic moment of my life would be something like rescuing a child from a burning building or maybe heroically stopping a runaway shopping cart before it crashed into a grandma. You know, something that would make the local news where people would call me a good Samaritan and I'd get a free meal at the diner for a week. Turns out, my defining moment was something much less glamorous and far more humiliating. It all started on a Monday, which is fitting because if betrayal had a favorite day of the week, it would be Monday. Lisa and I had been married for 10 years. 10 solid years of mortgage payments, family holidays, and increasingly unoriginal birthday gifts. If marriage was a television show, we had definitely moved into the later seasons where the writers were just trying to stretch out the plot. That morning, I was doing what any responsible husband does, avoiding emails and staring at the coffee machine as if sheer willpower could make it work faster. Lisa had already left for work, and the house was eerily quiet, which is the best kind of quiet. But then, just as I was about to enjoy my first sip of coffee, the front door rattled. Now, my first thought wasn't that Lisa had forgotten something. No, my brain immediately went full throttle into crime documentary mode. Maybe it was a burglar who had the audacity to rob people in broad daylight. Or worse, one of those door-to-door energy salesmen who could sense when you were home and emotionally unprepared to say no. I peeked through the blinds like a paranoid neighbor and saw a man. Not just any man. A UPS guy. A very, very familiar UPS guy. At first, I thought, I guess we order from Amazon more than I realize. But then, something about him made me pause. The guy wasn't carrying a package. In fact, he looked very comfortable, adjusting his shirt like a man who had just gotten out of bed. My bed. I opened the door, and he froze mid-step, like a deer caught in headlights, except the headlights were my very confused, very skeptical face. Delivery for Lisa, he stammered, pointing at absolutely nothing in his hands. I stared at him. He stared at me. It was the kind of silence that could make an entire dinner party awkward. I see, I said, because it seemed like the kind of thing a husband should say in this situation. Then, before I could process anything further, he turned on his heel and walked away with the urgency of a man who had just realized he was one step away from starring in a country song about betrayal. Now, let me be clear, I am not a jealous man. I have never been one to go through Lisa's things or interrogate her when she comes home late. But even I had to admit, that was suspicious. Still, I told myself to calm down. Maybe it was just a weird moment. Maybe he was delivering something and simply forgot it in his truck. And then I saw it. The small, neatly folded UPS uniform shirt sitting on the chair in the hallway. Let me repeat that for those in the back. The man walked out of my house without his work uniform. The literal badge of his profession was now lounging casually in my home like it paid half the mortgage. I sat down. I had to. I needed the emotional support of furniture. This was one of those moments where the brain tries to fight reality. My first thought? Maybe he's just really bad at being a UPS guy. Maybe he accidentally delivered himself to my house and forgot to leave. Maybe, just maybe, Lisa had started a home laundry business exclusively for people in brown polo shirts. But no. I knew better. At this point, I could have gone full investigator mode. Checked her credit card statements. Installed secret cameras. Followed her around like some B-list detective. But honestly, I didn't need to. Because if a man walks out of your house half-dressed, there are only so many explanations that don't make you look like a complete fool. I did what any rational man in my position would do. I got up, grabbed my keys, and left the house. Not in a dramatic storm-off kind of way, but in a I need a break before I accidentally start talking to inanimate objects kind of way. But life wasn't done with me yet. I hadn't even made it to the end of the street when I saw Lisa's car. She had always been a cautious driver, the kind who acted like stop signs were religious relics to be worshipped for a full 10 seconds before moving forward. But today, she was zooming down the road like she had just escaped a hostage situation. And then, just as she was about to pass me, our eyes met. Now, if Lisa had any shame, she would have reacted. She would have looked surprised or guilty or something. Instead, she did the worst possible thing. She waved. Like I was a friendly neighbor and not her husband who had just caught another man doing a terrible job of sneaking out of our house. And just like that, I had all the proof I needed. She wasn't just cheating, she was comfortable cheating. Relaxed. Unbothered. Like it was just another Monday. I watched her car disappear down the street. My coffee still in hand, still lukewarm, still useless in the face of this mess. And all I could think was, well, I guess I don't have to fix the leaky faucet now. Because I wasn't fixing anything in this house ever again. I always thought that if I ever caught Lisa cheating, it would be some dramatic, Hollywood-style moment. Like I'd kick down a door, catch her in the act, and have some legendary one-liner ready, something so good they'd put it in a movie trailer. Instead, I got a half-dressed UPS guy and a wife who waved at me like I was the neighbor she occasionally borrowed sugar from. But I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That would be too easy for her. She'd just turn it into some tearful, manipulative performance about how I didn't listen enough or how I'd changed over the years, and suddenly, I'd be the bad guy who somehow made her betray our marriage. Nope, I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. Instead, I decided to get some confirmation. Not for me. I already knew what was happening. But I wanted to see just how much of a fool Lisa thought I was. So, I went home, sat down on the couch like a man who definitely hadn't just watched his wife's side hobby run out the front door, and waited. Lisa came home about 20 minutes later, casually throwing her keys on the counter, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, babe," she said, all normal, like she hadn't just turned our marriage into some low-budget reality show. "How was your day?" "Oh, fantastic," I said, smiling like the fool she clearly thought I was. "Worked on some emails, stared at the coffee machine for a while." "Oh," and a half-naked UPS guy walked out of our house. She froze. Just for half a second. Most people wouldn't have caught it, but I did. I'd spent over a decade watching this woman fake smile through family gatherings, lie about how much things cost, and pretend she liked my friend Kevin. I knew exactly when she was about to start spinning some story. She turned to me, eyes wide with manufactured innocence. What? What are you talking about?" I leaned back, sighing dramatically. "Oh, I don't know, Lisa." I was enjoying a completely normal morning when, out of nowhere, a man in UPS shorts, only UPS shorts, walks out of our front door, looking like he just realized he left his entire life behind. Any idea why that might have happened? She actually had the nerve to laugh. "Oh my God, Charles," she said, shaking her head. "Are you serious? You think I'm cheating on you with a delivery guy?" "Lisa, I don't think you're cheating. I know you did cheat. Because unless he was here modeling new uniforms for fun, I don't see why a package-free UPS guy would be casually strolling out of my house." She rolled her eyes like I was being so dramatic. "Okay, fine. You want to know the truth," she said, crossing her arms. "I was helping him. His shirt got wet, and I was just letting him dry it off." This was the moment I realized my wife genuinely believed I had the intelligence of a decorative plant. "Let me get this straight," I said, rubbing my temples. "A UPS guy showed up with a shirt, then somehow lost control of a hose or fell into a pond that doesn't exist, and instead of, I don't know, going to his own house to change, he came inside our house to let it dry?" "Yes." She said it with the confidence of a woman who had never been questioned in her life. I nodded. "Right. And tell me, Lisa, at what point did he also lose his pants? Because last I checked, water damage is a top-half problem." Now she was getting irritated. That was Lisa's thing. She could never be caught in a lie because, in her mind, the problem was never her actions. The problem was that you dared to ask questions. "Oh my God, Charles, why are you making this such a big deal?" she huffed. "It was just one thing. It wasn't anything inappropriate. You're being ridiculous." "Lisa, I could almost accept the idea that some guy needed a shirt dried. But there's just one tiny problem." I leaned in. He left without it. Silence. And there it was, the moment she knew she had completely lost control of this conversation. "That's weird," she muttered, pretending to think. "Maybe he forgot it?" "Oh, yeah, Lisa. That makes sense. That's totally something people do. Walk out of a house half-dressed and forget that they need clothes to function in society." She was still standing there, arms crossed, searching for something, anything that could get her out of this. And honestly, I wanted to see how far she'd go. So, I said, stretching my arms like I had all the time in the world. "Let's test your theory. I'll just call UPS and let them know one of their employees accidentally left half his uniform here. I'm sure they'll be so relieved to hear it wasn't anything weird." Lisa turned pale. "Wait," she said, her voice suddenly too calm. "You're calling them?" "Sure. I mean, it's only fair. This poor guy probably needs his uniform. Can't have him getting in trouble over a misunderstanding, right?" And that was when I saw it, the tiniest flicker of panic in her eyes. "That's really unnecessary," she blurted out. "I mean, what if he gets in trouble? We don't want to cause problems for him." And there it was. "Lisa," I said, standing up, "let's just cut the act. I don't need an explanation. I don't even need an apology. I just need to know one thing." She stared at me, probably trying to calculate if she could still spin this. What? She asked, barely above a whisper. Was this the first time? Silence. And in that silence, I got my answer. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. I let out a slow breath and walked past her, heading straight for the bedroom. Where are you going? She asked, still trying to pretend we were a normal couple who could just shake this off. To do what you clearly didn't, I said, grabbing my overnight bag. Make better choices. And just like that, I walked out the door. I didn't slam it. Didn't yell. Because unlike Lisa, I actually respected the house I paid for. I wasn't dramatic about leaving. No big speech, no slamming doors, no storming off like some tragic hero in a movie. I just grabbed my bag, walked out, and locked the door behind me like I was heading out for a casual weekend trip instead of leaving my wife to marinate in her own nonsense. And where did I go? Straight to my buddy Greg's place. Greg was one of those guys who had been through every possible life disaster and somehow came out of it looking like he gave motivational speeches for a living. He'd been divorced twice, fired 3 times, and once got into a full-scale legal battle with his neighbor over a tree branch, yet he was still the most upbeat guy I knew. Greg opened the door, took one look at my face, and nodded like a man who'd seen this kind of thing before. What did she do? I walked in, dropped my bag on the couch, and flopped down like a man who had just realized the last 10 years of his life were one big joke. UPS guy, I said, staring at the ceiling. Greg sat down across from me. Oh, so we're doing the classics, huh? He leaned forward. Tell me he at least tried to hide under the bed. Nope, I said, shaking my head. He just walked right out the front door like it was casual Friday at the worst company in America. Greg let out a low whistle. Bold. I respect the commitment. I sighed. You ever get the feeling that you're the only person in the world following the rules while everyone else is playing a different game? Greg nodded. Oh, yeah. It's like showing up to a poker game with your life savings, and everyone else is playing Go Fish. For the next hour, we sat there, talking through the details. Greg, being the enlightened divorce expert that he was, ran through every possibility, Lisa's excuses, the fake crying that was bound to happen, and the inevitable attempt to turn it all around on me. She's gonna say you're too distant, he predicted, or that you don't pay attention to her needs. Oh, I know, I said. I'm fully expecting to be accused of making her cheat. Greg pointed a finger at me. And when she realizes that won't work, she's gonna say she was lonely. Which is rich, I said, considering she somehow found time to schedule a delivery appointment that wasn't even in my Amazon history. Greg laughed. You want my advice? Don't confront her with emotions. Be weird about it. I narrowed my eyes. Weird how? Start acting super supportive, he said. Tell her you think it's great she's making new friends. I blinked. That's genius. Yeah, man. Turn it around. Pretend you're excited. Be way too okay with it. And just like that, I had a plan. The next morning, I went back home like nothing had happened. Lisa was in the kitchen, acting like she had just spent the night reflecting on her life choices instead of whatever nonsense she had actually been doing. She gave me a careful look, probably expecting me to throw my bag on the floor and start demanding answers. Instead, I smiled. Morning, I said, grabbing a coffee cup like I was the happiest man alive. So, I thought about everything, and I just want you to know, I totally get it. Lisa's face twitched. Get what? Oh, Lisa, I said, shaking my head with the kind of patience usually reserved for kindergarten teachers. I mean, it was obvious. You wanted to shake things up, add some excitement. I should have known you were the adventurous type. Her eyes darted around like she was trying to find the emergency exit in a burning building. I don't think. No, I interrupted, waving a hand. I really respect it. In fact, I think it's great that you're forming new connections. Lisa's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a malfunctioning robot. Charles, what are you talking about? Oh, come on, I said, laughing lightly. The UPS guy? That was just step 1, right? Who's next? FedEx? Maybe someone from the cable company? I mean, if we're doing this, we might as well make a list. She paled. That's not funny. Oh, I'm not joking, I said, my smile still plastered on my face. I just want to make sure I'm being supportive of your new interests. Lisa blinked rapidly, realizing she had officially lost control of the conversation. Wait, so you're saying you're okay with this? Oh, 100%, I said. Honestly, I've been thinking about trying new things, too. You've really inspired me. Now she looked actually scared. What new things? I shrugged. Oh, meeting new people, exploring my options, expanding my social circle. She swallowed hard. Wait, are you? Not yet, I said, but I love that you paved the way. You're so brave, Lisa. Really, I should be thanking you for showing me how important it is to keep things exciting. Her face went completely blank, which meant her brain was working at full speed trying to find an angle to flip this in her favor. But she had nothing. Nothing. Because if she got angry, that meant admitting what she did was wrong. And if she tried to defend herself, that meant giving me permission to do the same exact thing. Checkmate. She sat down, her hands gripping the table like she was holding on to the last scraps of her dignity. Charles, she said slowly, I don't think this is funny. Oh, Lisa, I said, patting her shoulder. Neither do I. I grabbed my coffee, took a sip, and left her sitting there, completely lost in the mess she had created. And for the first time in a long time, I actually felt fantastic. Lisa spent the rest of the day pretending everything was normal, which was honestly impressive considering the fact that I had basically just given her permission to watch her own plan backfire in real time. She tiptoed around the house like a prisoner on probation, watching me closely, waiting for me to break character and start yelling. But I wasn't going to yell. That would make her feel like the victim. And Lisa loved playing the victim. Instead, I smiled. I asked her how her day was. I even suggested we should start being more open with each other about our social lives, just to see her face twitch like a faulty light bulb. But I still needed something solid. Not for me. I already knew what was happening. I just needed undeniable proof. The kind of evidence that wouldn't just confirm my suspicions, but would allow me to control exactly how this all played out. So, I got creative. Lisa wasn't stupid, she was just arrogant. She thought she was too smart to get caught, and people like that always get lazy. It was just a matter of finding the right crack in her carefully maintained image. And sure enough, I found it. Lisa had a habit of using the home computer for certain things when she thought I wasn't paying attention. She had her laptop for work and her phone for everything else, but for things she didn't want on either, she used the shared desktop. The one I built. The one I maintained. The one she had no idea I had full access to. So, after she left for work, I sat down, cracked my knuckles, and started digging. Now, I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a few emails, a hidden folder, something obvious. But Lisa was beyond predictable. Because right there, sitting on the desktop like it was a family photo album, was a folder titled Work Documents. Lisa didn't even work from home. I clicked it open. Emails, screenshots, photos. I sat back in my chair, exhaled slowly, and just took it all in. She wasn't just cheating. She was documenting it. Keeping little souvenirs like some overconfident criminal who wanted a trophy case. Messages sent at weird hours. Pictures taken in places that looked suspiciously like hotel rooms. And the names? Oh, there were names. Because why stop at one affair when you can have multiple? I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how stupid she thought I was. Lisa had spent years painting me as the responsible, predictable, oblivious husband. The guy who went to work, paid the bills, and never asked too many questions. And for the longest time, I was that guy. But not anymore. I didn't rage. I didn't throw anything. I just closed the folder, sat back, and let my brain shift into strategy mode. Because Lisa wasn't going to get a dramatic confrontation. She wasn't going to get tears, or anger, or some big emotional scene. She was going to get something much worse. She was going to get me at my absolute coldest. Step 1. Get everything backed up. Copy every file, every message, every single shred of evidence onto a drive. Step 2. Prepare for a very public downfall. Lisa cared about one thing more than anything else, her image. The devoted wife, the perfect friend, the woman who had it all together. So, I was going to take that from her piece by piece. But first, I needed to set the stage. That night, when Lisa got home, I was waiting for her in the kitchen. I had a drink in my hand, casually swirling it like a man who had just finished planning something. Hey, I said, my voice light. Busy day? Lisa paused in the doorway, caught off guard by the too calm tone in my voice. Yeah, just work stuff. You. Oh, just thinking about how much I appreciate you. I smiled. In fact, I've been doing some reflecting. I feel like I don't really know you as well as I should. Her grip tightened on her purse. What do you mean? I leaned forward. I mean, we've been married for years, Lisa. And yet, I feel like there are whole parts of your life I've just never been included in. She tried to smile, but it was stiff. Forced. Charles, That's ridiculous. Oh, is it? I tilted my head, because I feel like you have a lot of things to say when you feel left out. But me? I just sit back, play the good husband, and trust you. Lisa blinked rapidly. That's not fair. I leaned back, swirling my drink again. No, you know what's not fair? Me spending years thinking I was married to someone who actually respected me. I took a sip. But don't worry, Lisa. I get it now. Silence. She knew. She didn't know how I knew, but she knew. And now? She was panicking. Good. I stood up, stretched, and walked past her. Anyway, I said over my shoulder, I've got some work to do. Hope you get some rest. And just like that, I left her standing there, completely powerless. That was only the beginning. Lisa thought she had control. Thought she had me right where she wanted. She had no idea what was coming next. Lisa spent the next few days pretending to be the same devoted wife she had been pretending to be for years. The effort was almost commendable, extra kisses before bed, suddenly asking about my day like she was taking an interest. Even bringing me a coffee one morning like she had been doing that for the last decade instead of acting like making me a cup was equivalent to assembling a car engine. It was cute. Really. But I wasn't playing husband anymore. I was playing something else, something Lisa didn't even know existed. I was playing Lisa's game. Only I was playing it better. I had my proof, my plan, and now it was execution time. The first thing I did was simple. I let Lisa think she was winning. That was the key to all of this. Because people like her? They don't break when you come at them head on. They break when they think they've gotten away with something and then it's taken away from them. So, I smiled. I laughed at her fool stories. I even suggested we go out for a nice dinner, just to really sell it. And oh, Lisa ate it up. You can see it in the way she started walking around the house, looser, more confident, like she had dodged something she wasn't even sure had been thrown at her. That's when I started laying the groundwork for her downfall. See, Lisa cared about one thing more than anything else, her reputation. Her carefully curated world of friends, coworkers, and social circles. The image she had spent years building up. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ruin her faster than a controlled detonation of that world. Step 1. The public exposure. I didn't go around telling people outright. That would have been too easy, too predictable. No, I planted the seeds. A casual, yeah, Lisa's been acting really distant lately, here. A concerned, I don't know, I feel like something's off in our marriage, there. All said with a half-smile like I was some poor, clueless husband who was just so confused. And sure enough, Lisa's own friends started putting things together. The rumors started small. A whisper here, a suspicious look there. And since Lisa lived for these people's approval, the second she noticed the shift in their behavior, she started scrambling. Are you telling people I'm a bad wife? She asked one evening, trying to keep her voice casual. I looked at her with the perfect amount of confusion. What? No. Why would I do that? Oh, I don't know, Charles. Maybe because suddenly people are acting weird around me? I shrugged. Weird how? Her mouth opened, then closed. Because she couldn't say it. She couldn't admit that her world was tilting, and she didn't even know why. Perfect. Step 2. The financial hit. Lisa was comfortable, too comfortable. She had never been good with money, but she had never needed to be because I handled all the important things like a responsible adult. So, I made a few quiet moves. Adjusted a few bank accounts. Set up a separate one for myself. And, just for fun, I let one of her credit cards decline while she was out with her friends. Oh my God, Charles. Why is my card not working? Wow, that's weird, I said, blinking innocently. Maybe you should check your spending. She didn't like that answer. Step 3. The final push. Lisa needed to think she still had control. She needed to believe she could spin this back in her favor. So, I set the trap and let her walk right into it. One night, after she had been on edge for weeks, I sat her down at the table with a deep sigh, rubbing my face like a man who was just so tired. Lisa, I think we need to talk. Her eyes lit up. Because in her mind, this was her moment. The one where she could say something manipulative, cry a little, twist the situation into some noble excuse, and make me feel guilty. What is it? She asked, tilting her head with the exact level of fake concern I expected. I don't think this is working, I said, shaking my head like I was so conflicted. I don't feel appreciated. Lisa, a woman who had literally committed multiple affairs, nodded seriously, like she was really listening. I get that. I do. Maybe we've just lost touch with each other. Oh, I completely agree, I said. That's why I think we should separate. Her smile froze. Wait, separate? I nodded. Yeah, I think it's time. She blinked, her brain finally catching up to the fact that she had walked directly into her own loss. I mean, we don't have to rush into that, she stammered. Maybe we could try therapy, or a weekend away. Oh, Lisa, I sighed, shaking my head. No, I think we both know that's not going to fix things. And boom, there it was. The exact moment Lisa realized she had completely lost control. I stood up, stretched, and gave her a small smile. Anyway, I've already got things in motion. My lawyer will be in touch. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Because for once in her life, Lisa had nothing to say. And I had everything I needed. Lisa sat there, completely frozen, blinking at me like her brain had short-circuited. It was beautiful. Truly. I had waited weeks for this exact moment, the second she realized she wasn't in control anymore. You already spoke to a lawyer, she finally croaked out, as if the idea of me making decisions without her approval was some kind of personal betrayal. I nodded, taking my time sipping my drink. Yep. Figured it was time to move forward. She let out a weird half-laugh, the kind people do when they're trying to pretend something isn't a big deal, even though their whole world is crumbling. Charles, come on, let's not be dramatic. Oh, no, Lisa. You love drama, I said, smiling like I was just now realizing it. In fact, I'd say you thrive on it. But me? I'm just a guy who's decided I'm not wasting another second of my life playing a game I didn't even sign up for. Lisa's fingers curled around the edge of the table. She wasn't used to this version of me. She was used to the Charles who made excuses for her, the one who overlooked things, the one who let her spin every situation in her favor. That Charles was gone. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath, shifting gears. Look, maybe we both made some mistakes. But we don't have to rush into anything. We can do. Oh, Lisa. I sighed, shaking my head like I was truly heartbroken. You don't have to do this. You don't have to pretend you care what happens next. I do care, she snapped, her voice finally cracking. We have a life together. A house. Friends. Oh, yeah, about that. I leaned forward. Since I was the one paying for everything, the house? It's mine. My name is the only one on it, and my lawyer has already confirmed it. So you might want to start looking for a place. Lisa's face drained of color. You're kicking me out? I shrugged. Well, not right this second. But soon? Yeah. She was losing it now, trying to calculate her way out of this. But she had nothing. No lies left to tell, no fake tears that would work, no way to flip the situation into something where I looked like the bad guy. And then, the final nail in the coffin, her friends. See, I had been very strategic. I hadn't just planted doubts in their minds. I had curated an entire storyline where Lisa was slowly unraveling, making erratic choices, and this was the best part, being disrespectful to me in ways they simply could not support. Because Lisa had always been the golden friend in the group. The one who loved to pretend she was the voice of wisdom. The person who gave relationship advice as if she wasn't the starring character in a personal scandal. So when I made sure to have a few very carefully timed conversations with just the right people, let's just say Lisa's support system started crumbling faster than her excuses. And the best part? I didn't even have to tell them the full story. All I had to do was say, I don't think Lisa's been honest with me lately. And they did all the work for me. Lisa had no clue that her own friends had started to distance themselves. That the people she relied on to tell her she was always right were suddenly not returning her calls. Charles, she tried again, lowering her voice like we were at some serious crossroads. We don't have to do this. I tilted my head. Do what? She swallowed. We don't have to end things like this. That's when I really smiled. Because that was the moment Lisa finally understood. This wasn't some emotional meltdown where we'd go back and forth and then somehow find our way back together. This was the final chapter. I stood up, stretched, and checked my watch. Well, I said, acting like I was just now remembering something, I've got a meeting in an hour, so I'll let you figure out what you want to do next. She stared at me, completely lost. A meeting? Oh, yeah, I said, grabbing my keys. You know, making plans for my new life. And with that, I walked out the door. Lisa didn't follow. Because for the first time in her life, she didn't know what to say. And that was the best ending I could have asked for. Thanks for watching. Rate the story in the comments. Subscribe to the channel